Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chris Luck, and thanks for clicking on the video. I show you how I record and edit my sunset photos with a ND filter. One issue with the video is I'm going to edit now, and I use these Rode Wireless Go microphones to record my audio, and I plugged it in, and it said update available. I was like, all right, I'll update it. It's been like 6 months since I updated the thing. And I go to find the audio, and there's nothing on the little microphone here. And I plug the other one in. I'm like, maybe I put it on the other one. Nope. It says, before you update, make sure you export your audio. So, yeah, I didn't do that, and I lost the audio. So you have to deal with the audio from the camera itself. It's not the worst, but I'm a little upset that it's not this microphone, because it's pretty good. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. Enjoy the video, and I'll catch you in the next one, but I'm going to roll it now. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chris Luck, and as you can see, it's a real pretty sunset tonight. Just got off work, quick opportunity to get a photograph, and I figured, you know what, let me set up the other camera here, and I'm going to teach you how to get a long exposure sunset photo while it's still kind of light out. The reason I'm doing long exposure is because of water. Typically it's not a big deal for me unless there's some fast movement in the clouds, which it's about average tonight. So I'm going to show you what my settings are. I got the Canon EOS R. It's got a built-in ND filter adapter from EF to RF lenses. It's amazing. I don't even want to buy an RF lens because I love this adapter so much with the built-in ND filter. Alright, so here I got my settings here. You see the white balance is very blue, but we could fix that easily. And what I'm going to do is just show you what the difference between 30 millimeters and 15 looks like behind the lens. And I'm going to go back to, let's go here. This is about 24 millimeters. I do like that framing. And I already have my focus set, so I'm just going to take the photo. There we could preview it. And look, take a look at the clouds. You can see they have a little weird motion in them. So let's go ahead and try a really long exposure. So I can, with this ND filter, and go about, let's go 15 seconds. Got a plane flying overhead. And we'll shoot at f16. We'll get our focus back. And let's see what a 15-second exposure looks like. Alright, let's preview that. You see the water's silky smooth, so the longer the better in most cases, unless there's birds flying, which there are. So we might have some streaks in these photos. I'm not too sure yet. And when exposing for sunset photos, you do not want to blow out your highlights. It's usually easier to recover your shadows, and it's nearly impossible 100% of the time to recover your highlights unless it wasn't super blown out. But if you can see that it's not overblown on the back of the camera, then you typically should be pretty good. So I'm really happy with this photo here. I wish I shot it maybe 10-15 minutes ago, but I was just arriving and setting everything up. But I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just do another one at 30 millimeters. So let me zoom in. I'm gonna get the pyramid back, or I'm gonna get that in the background pillar. Let's find our focus again. S16, 15 seconds, 400 ISO. And you know, a lot of people would judge me for using 400 ISO. However, at the EOS R, I found that's probably the best. 100, there's just something that when I'm editing my photos, it doesn't seem right. 400 definitely seems the best. Silky smooth on the water. The clouds look okay. I do like a little bit of motion in there. So that's about all we could shoot tonight. Let's get you on the computer and show you my editing process for a sunset photo. Alrighty guys, I now have you on the computer as promised. I'm going to show you how I edit in Lightroom and Photoshop. And we're going to turn this photo into this here. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten out the horizon. I hate having a crooked horizon. And I'd say that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to warm it up and get rid of this ugly blue. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for now. We'll be adjusting things as we go. Alright, so first thing I'm noticing is these smudges here. And I think they're birds, but I could be wrong. They might most likely be spots on the lens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to spot removal tool. And we're just going to click them and that's it. That's all you got to do. And they disappear. I noticed these, oh, there's another one here. I noticed these branches here, I don't like them, so I'm just gonna highlight them, gone, highlight that, gone. Alright, so already it's definitely a cleaner image, and now we can start playing with everything else. I'm just gonna bring up the exposure just to about here. Then I'm gonna bring down the highlights, bring them back in, but I'm gonna increase the shadows, and I'd say I like that. It looks like a pretty flat neutral image, and it's a good starting point here. So another thing I like to do then is increase the contrast, and when you increase things, it really brings out flaws. When I increase contrast, I'm noticing it's still a little too blue, so maybe we can warm it up just a little bit more. That looks good for now. And I'm noticing the sky is still a little blown out, so maybe just reduce the exposure and maybe just reduce the whites. Just I don't mean to increase it. Right there should be pretty good for now. All right. So overall now I'm pretty happy with it. I'm noticing this very ugly blue tint on the water, and I really don't like that. I'd rather be a little warmer, so I'm going to come over here and create a new linear gradient, and we'll just slide up pretty evenly like that. I'm going to bring up the exposure, but not too much. You don't ever want the water to be brighter than the sky, and that's just because that's when it starts to look unrealistic. So now that I raise this up a little bit, we can warm this up, and it's still warmer, but that blue/green is there. So if we see green, let's take the tint and move it towards the magenta side. And already that looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that. And now I'm going to make the foreground match the sky. So we're going to create another linear gradient, bring that down, and this time I'm just going to increase just a little bit, but bring the highlights back down. And let's warm it up. I don't want to touch the tint. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. And maybe I'll just adjust it just a little bit so it does match. We will do some major color correction later on, but not right now. So in the sky, I like to bring up the clarity. But when I bring up the clarity, I like to bring down the texture just a little tiny bit. And then we'll bring up the dehaze. And I like what the dehaze does to the sky, but it always makes it a little too saturated. So I'm just going to reduce the saturation just about like 10 here. And now that looks good. Another thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and just play with some stuff here. I like to see what I like and then what I don't like. And overall, I like how it's looking right now. So I'm just going to be okay with it, and let's close out the brushes for now. And there's a few things well, first of all, I'm noticing another smudge here, so let me get rid of that. Poof, gone. Alrighty, and when you do long exposure, there is hot pixels in the picture. You can get rid of them if you want. I don't think there's a big of a deal as the smudges. Let's see. This is after and this is before. So obviously I had a really blue white balance. I just keep my white balance as the same, especially because I like to shoot at night most of the time. And I know with shooting raw, you can change things. So that's what we got here. And we can really focus on some color adjustments now. Increase the vibrance, increase the saturation, just like that for now. And I'm noticing I didn't touch anything here yet. I'm going to play with them. I don't think I'm going to use it, although, okay, we'll go with that. I like that. That looks really good. And clarity, I'll just leave it very minimal. And I do like a nice dreamy look on my photos, and that's why I reduced the texture when I increased the clarity, because it gives you that dreamy look. So that looks fairly good. Now we can scroll down to the colors. There's not much red in the photo, so can't do much there. Orange, we can adjust that. I'm gonna make it just a little more towards the pink and red. I'm not gonna touch the saturation or the luminance. Yellow, I'm gonna make this more towards orange, and I like that a lot. And maybe, yep, I'll increase the saturation just a little bit here. And I don't really touch the luminance. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave the luminance alone. There's still a little green here. I'm just gonna reduce green, and I'd say that looks good. And maybe reduce aqua. Okay, I think that looks good. And let's see, magenta is not being touched. Let's see if purple, yep, I'm just gonna leave it. I don't like how it changes the color of the clouds. It makes it look too fake. So I'll show you purple. It looks like it's not real. Like it's too like distinguished. It's not a smooth color switch, or not like a smooth color blend. It's very harsh. So I'm just gonna uncheck that, and we have a really clean looking image right now. I'm pretty happy with it. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust the midtones. And this is where you really start to develop your image on what it looks like. And I like that a lot. I always like going towards the orange, and that looks good, but I'm going to reduce it about half. Even though I think it looks really good, I always like to reduce and edit just because it looks harsh. And sometimes I play with these and I don't like what it does, so I'll just leave it alone. And shadows, let's see. Since I went orange with the midtones, we want more of a blue or purple kind of shadow. And I like that. I like that a lot. I probably won't touch the highlights here. Or maybe I will. That looks really good too. Alright. That looks good. I don't edit every photo the same. I know a lot of people have a similar style. But I like to capture photographs, how they make me feel. And I like this a lot. It looks very, very clean. No more smudges. Oh, there is actually. It's funny when you don't see them and then you do see them, but just a click of a button at any time and they're gone. All right, so that actually is all I do in Lightroom. I do sometimes mess with the foreground here, and just by the lighting, it's very flat. You're not gonna get much here. But I will just create a new mask, a radial gradient, and we're going to make it really feathered, very untouched. It's not going to be spectacular. I'm just going to increase the exposure just a tiny bit. Increase the warmth just a tiny bit. And just move the blacks up and the whites up just a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do with that. I can actually now in the new Lightroom update preview brushes, and just a little bit of a foreground exposure, and that's all you really needed to do here. So that's about it in Lightroom. I know I'm actually really happy with this photo. I would probably export it the way it is, but I know I can always make things just a little better. So I'm gonna right click, edit in, and open as Smart Object in Photoshop. Alright, I'm going to show you two of my favorite buttons in Photoshop. One will be a color lookup, and for a time like this, I love crisp warm. Look how bad that made that look. But that's okay. We're going to double click here in the open spot. It's going to bring open this text box. And I'm going to come down to the underlying layer. And I'm going to hold Alt or Option if you're on a Mac. And just bring that all the way. And you can see it changes it already for the better. It only really affects the highlights and maybe just a little bit in the shadows. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to do the 33% rule, which is my favorite rule in editing. Is every time I see something I really like that looks good, I always go down to 33% or 66% depending on what it is. So I'd say that looks really good. And I'm fairly happy with that. All right, and then the other thing I like in Photoshop is the curves. And I'm just going to do the slightest adjustment here. I'm going to bring this bottom arrow up just about right here. Bring this down. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it here. I'm looking at this and that looks really good. The mountain is nicely lit and the highlights aren't blown out. And this side is the highlights. You can see what it does, but I'm just going to leave that alone. So I'm just going to show you in Photoshop here a quick before and after in Photoshop. And so when people say, do you Photoshop your images? Yes, but this is what they look like before, and that's what they look like after. And you can honestly get this done in Lightroom. I just find it easier to do for me personally. But that's the final photo here. I'm going to hit Control S, save this. It comes back to Lightroom, and that's it right there. You can see this current photo and the photo that I showed you at the start. And I actually do like the one we just edited better. This one has a little too much purple in it. But overall, that's all I do for my photography. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped you out. And if it did, leave a like button. And once again, I'm sorry about the audio in the beginning. It was very unprofessional. I hated hearing it while I was editing it. But that's it. And I'll catch you in the next one.